All right, so today we're going to talk about something that I've had people tell me they don't want to talk about. I've had people tell me it's controversial. I've had people tell me it's brilliant, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. Today, we're going to talk about qualifying and disqualifying. And as I go through this presentation, I want you to think about what your processes are and whether you qualify or whether you disqualify your leads. So let's get started. Who here loves leads? Show me. Big hands. I want to see everybody's hand. Woo! Leads, right? Maybe you look like this when you get a lead. You're like, yes! Right? Because leads are exciting. Come on. Maybe you do the double pump and you're like, I finally got that lead. Maybe you look like me and I jump up in the air like, woo! Right? Come on. Think about the reaction emotionally that you get when you get a lead. Leads are important. They're critical for the growth of our business, the growth of our bottom line, the increase of our net. We know leads have to happen. But today we're going to talk about whether we're qualifying our leads or whether we're working hard to disqualify our leads. So let's define that. And that's kind of a hard thing to do because the way that you qualify your leads might be different than the way you qualify your leads or the way that you qualify your leads. So I'm going to keep this kind of broad. Right? I qualify leads in which, or I define it in which, the way or process that you allow yourself to decide whether a lead is good enough to become a prospect and or whether that prospect is good enough to finally become a client. What's your process? Are you qualifying or disqualifying? So we're going to keep this pretty easy. I've chosen 3 easy stages of qualification. The first one is organizational qualifying. That's the kind of business, right? What kind of business is this? How big is that business? What's the demographic of that business? How many employees does that business have, right? When we get a lead, we're like, ooh, what's that business? Who are they? It's the most basic of the 3. The second one is the opportunity. What can I do for this business? Does this business need me? Is there an opportunity that I can fill, a solution I can provide? That's a qualifying process. Do they have a specific challenge or a need that I can fix? And the third one is individual qualifying. Am I talking to the right person? Who here has not talked to the right people? Right? So are we talking to the right person? Are we qualifying our connection? Think about that. So let's break this down a little bit and let's get into the nitty-gritty. So let's talk about the organization. Are they the perfect demographic? Is this a kind of business that I would love to work with? Is this a business I don't know anything about? Right? Think about that. The opportunity qualification is also very difficult because how often is it that the solution that they need is not in our sweet spot? It's not what we really want to actually provide them. But hey, we're kind of hoping that someday they want to buy what we actually are good at. You have to qualify the opportunity. And the individual, how many times do we find ourselves talking to the gatekeeper? Right? Talking to the office manager. Can they really pull the trigger? Are they really an influencer for the decision maker? How are we qualifying the individual that we're actually spending time working with? So this sounds like a whole lot of sales to me. I don't do sales. I'm a marketer and I'm a consultant. I don't want to do sales. So, stop the madness. I'm sure I've had that face many times. You can ask some of my team. Okay, so let's summarize. We're spending way too much time pushing prospects into our sales funnel that don't want to be there, but we want them to be there. People that don't really have the money, but we hope that maybe someday they find the money. Show me the money. Okay. And how many times do we find that we're not their priority? We're not the top of their priority. And that's a major problem. So, stop convincing people to work with you. That's a lot of sales. Stop educating people. How many times have you found yourself talking to the wrong person, explaining what we do over and over and over, and trying and think in our head, how can I say the same thing differently again? Because they just don't get it. Think about that. What about overselling? You're constantly trying to oversell yourself, because if I oversell myself, somebody eventually is going to like me and buy me. You know they buy you before they buy your product, right? Quit overselling. So let's talk a little bit about what disqualifying is and the way that I do my disqualifying. So we've got the sales funnel, right? We've got at the very top of the sales funnel, which is big and broad and wide open, leads. Now, we find a company that we would never really normally work for them, but they were given us as a lead from maybe a referral from a happy client. We got to work those leads, right? So they're not quite right, but we're going to push them down in the funnel into the middle of the funnel, hoping that they become a prospect. Maybe it's the wrong person we're talking to. Maybe the opportunity isn't really what we want to be providing, but we want to provide any opportunity because we need the sale. So we push the wrong leads further down into the funnel. So think about that. I would challenge you that what we should be doing is working hard to get those crappy leads out of the top of our funnel as fast as we can. How do we do that? Think about how you do that. Okay, so let's talk about the different mindsets, if you will. Average mindsets, like if we don't work with every lead, we might miss an opportunity. Have you ever felt like that? Every single lead I get, I need to work to its fullest potential, hoping that something cool happens, right? What about the mindset that I'm too small? I have to work every lead I get. I'm a solopreneur. I'm brand new. We have a lot of great brand new folks in the room in the network. I challenge you, just because you're brand new and small, don't go down the wrong path working every lead. Figure out how to disqualify faster. What about, I need every sale I can get? We're on the cusp of hiring somebody to come in and help us. We need every sale we can get. Does that mean we need bad sales? Does that mean that we'll take in wrong sales? Think about that. And what about the longer I nurture a lead, the more likely they are to convert? Well, guess what? You get bad leads that come into the top of your sales funnel. You push them down, all these leads down into the middle of your sales funnel, and some of them will squeak through at the bottom and become clients. The wrong clients. The clients you don't want to work with. The ones that 6 months in you say, oh, I should have never taken that job. Think about that. So, do you know what I call that? When you're pushing all these bad leads down into the sales funnel hoping for good news, I call that a huge, giant, smelly, steaming pile of crap. Right? Be smart about the top of your funnel. All right, so let's get on to something else. When you're not willing to say no, I call that fear. The emotional tie-in that you have to not getting a sale that you might be able to get. Fear to stick to your business plan. All right, check this out. Show of hands, who here has a business plan? Okay, everybody. Hold on, keep them up. If you have a business plan where you actually wrote out your perfect demographic, I want to work with these kinds of businesses that are this big, that make this amount of money, that have this amount of employees, a lot of us have written down who we want to work with. But when you measure that against who we're actually working with in our database of clients, how many of those clients actually match what we wanted? Think about that. That's a fear to stick to your preferred demographic. And when you're scared of something, you run towards something else. And I would say if you're scared to say no to a sale that you know you shouldn't take, you're running towards the wrong way. And you're playing a game that's going to be very hard to win. Okay, and a fear to say no. My wife always tells me that I want people to like me, because I'm a very big people person, but I had to learn very early on, I have to say no. If it doesn't feel right, if it's not the perfect demographic, bear in mind, I had several years where I said yes to all the wrong things, and I've had a good handful of years recently where I say no. Just plain fear. Okay. So what happens when we start disqualifying? What's the one commodity that we can't get back, we can't return, and we don't get a refund for? Exactly. Time. What about headaches? Am I the only one that in years past I get a headache at my desk, I get a headache in my car, I get a headache at home, just thinking about how I have to go meet with that business I shouldn't have done business with. Because the solution I'm trying to provide them isn't working, because it was a solution I should have never tried to provide that kind of business. Headaches. So by disqualifying really early in the sales funnel, it allows us to work better leads. Who likes better leads? Right? Everybody say me. All right, we all like leads, good. Better leads. What happens when we work better leads? We have a better customer retention. Did you know that it takes 5 to 7 times the cost to get a new client than to keep one? So think about it. I challenge you to look at your time and how much time you're spending in sales and prospecting versus how much time you're spending taking care of the clients that will cost you 5 to 7 times less to keep. If you're spending a lot of time in sales, my guess is you're probably playing a very hard-to-win game. You need to keep your customers happy, number one, and continue to fill the pipeline, number two. All right, so how do I disqualify? I love asking questions like, is my product or service the top of your priority list, sir? Ma'am, is my service number one on what you need to be done this year? And if they say yes, further the conversation. If they say no, not really, I say it was really nice to meet you, and I get up and I leave. Why keep talking? I can go take care of my happy clients in the meantime. Do they have, I would say, sir, do you have a general understanding of what I am proposing to offer and how it works? I do not want to work with people where I am constantly selling them again and again and again on what we're doing. I don't want to constantly be explaining to a client how my product works. That is taking up way too much valuable time that I could be spending working on their project instead of talking about it. You find yourself constantly teaching your clients about what you do, that must drive you nuts, because it drove me crazy and it still does. All right, you ever had somebody sit down in your conference room or sit down and say, I don't even know why I'm here? I say stand up and say, neither do I, and leave. Thanks for coming. All right, let's talk a little bit about the emotional results of disqualifying. Number one, less time with the wrong prospects means you're happier. Right? We can all agree on that? Happier. Well, when I'm happier at work, guess what happens? I'm happier at home. God knows I cannot qualify or disqualify my wife and my kids, but I can disqualify bad leads. And when I do that, I'm happier at home. So we all know it's very hard to keep work separate from home. And we should all work very hard to have a mindfulness of leaving work away from home. But we all know that that's still a part of who we are. So, a couple final comments. Number one, I would stress it's the quality of the leads that you should be working on, not the quantity. If you're focusing on a quantity of leads, my guess is a lot of them are the bad leads you shouldn't be working. Most of us, I use Sharp Springs for a lot of my sales pipeline and funnel. I look in there, and if I see something that I really don't think is a good fit or very likely to close, I throw it out. I'm done. I'm not scared to do it because that opens up more time for me to go work the right leads. I would also say that there's no good deal with a bad guy. Anybody know what the PITA tax is? P-I-T-A, the pain in the ass tax? When you're doing a bid or working with a prospect and you're thinking to yourself, I can't charge that person what I would normally charge that person, it's gonna be so much work and they don't seem fun, I'm gonna charge them a little bit more. Don't do it. There's never enough to charge somebody you're gonna work with that in the beginning you think it's gonna be easy, but you know later it's gonna be hard. That's the headache slide, people. If you need to add the PITA tax, don't do business with that organization. Okay, pace yourself. Sprinting versus marathon. We heard a little bit about that this morning. My take on that is if you sprint, after every sprint, there's a real slow walk and a big recovery. You should probably look a little bit more like this. Well-trained, pacing, and having an aggressive but comfortable stride every day in your prospecting and in your leads and in your client management. Because at the end of the day, when we all die, our email boxes are still going to be full. Thank you.